Hello, all you ghouls, goblins, and creatures of the night, and welcome to Chapter 1 of a show we're calling Killer Cuts. This is going to be all about our favorite things in horror, because we got two of the best minds when it comes to being horror fans on the planet right here. I'm Bobby Munson, and right beside me, the natural Astrid Pizarro. How you doing, Astrid? And thank you for doing this show with me. It's a great collaboration we were finally able to come up with.
Yeah, finally we get to do something together. No, I'm excited and nervous. When you said the best, I was gonna say where because I don't want to pretend I'm the best either. I may forget things, but it's something that I really like to talk about horror movies aside from wrestling. So why not take the opportunity to talk about something other than wrestling? I love it.
Yeah, it's fantastic, and I knew this was going to be the great team to do it. And again, on future episodes, we'll probably be looking for collaborations and have more people on the panel. But I thought for this one that we're calling Chapter 1 Whisper to a Scream, we're taking a look at the Scream franchise episodes 1 through 5 anyway. And of course, with 6 coming out in just a week's time, we're talking about March the 10th as Scream 6 hits theaters. It's going to be something different. At least that's what they're telling us and teasing us with that trailer. This Ghostface is something different. We're going to talk all about that here shortly. But before we even get into the Scream 6 talk, let's break it down for everybody. And we will say this is going to be spoiler heavy on 1 through 5. So if you haven't watched any of them, then what are you doing here first? Go watch those movies and come on back and join us afterwards. But yeah, let's start with 1 through 4, first of all, 1 through 4 directed by Wes Craven. 1 and 2 originally written by Kevin Williamson, with 3 being picked up at the helm by Aaron Kruger, I believe is the pronunciation of his name. And then 4 was also directed by Wes Craven, and I think that when James Vanderbilt stepped in as the writer possibly at that point. Can't quite remember. I don't think Kevin Williamson came back at all for 4, did he?
I think he was behind the scenes, but I don't think he was like a big part of that one.
That's right. Yeah, I believe so. And then, of course, 5 and 6. 5 was the one where finally a new director came in, that being Matt Bettinelli and Tyler Gillette, I believe is his name. These two are the directors of a film called Ready or Not. Fantastic horror movie as well, too, if anybody hasn't seen that one yet. Something else we can unfold and talk about later down the road. But yes, a lot of people have had their hands in the Scream franchise at this point in time. A lot of people had their fears once this team took over for Wes Craven. But of course, knowing what they had done with Ready or Not, I was ready to accept them as the directors. And what a fantastic job they did do with Part 5. And how exciting have they made the build up to Part 6 coming out here in just a week's time?
Yeah, I feel like this year, especially compared to last year, and I'm not saying last year was bad, but with this year, I feel like the marketing has been so well done, with all the like graphics and the posters they've been giving us, the little clips and teasers, and even now with like even Zoom backgrounds that they have not too long ago. So to see all the promotions they have done, and like I think they did a little pop-up shop kind of thing in California as well. So like those little things that like they even sold out and had to make more openings. So it's incredible to see like how people are welcoming the movie so much and so well too.
Yeah, apparently we don't welcome it quite as much in Canada because I still can't even buy tickets for the movie yet. So I do not officially well, maybe by the time this comes out, I will have my tickets officially. But as of the recording, I still don't have my damn tickets, but I've been checking every hour of every day until my local theater gets those tickets on sale, because the wife and I will be in our perfect 2 seats right at the back row so we can see perfectly right in the center. It's going to be great. First one that's being released in 3D, if I'm not mistaken, as well, too, Part 6.
Yeah, from what I remember, yeah.
Yeah. And are they doing any fan events down in your area and stuff like that too? I know that here that they're doing a little bit of one which is going to have some of the cast trailers and some of that kind of stuff playing beforehand.
Yeah, I know they did. It's going to be one of the first 3D showings at the same day. I think it's on the 8th, if I'm not mistaken. I keep forgetting what my days. I know it's a little bit earlier than what I have. Oh, it's on the 9th, but it's basically a little bit earlier than what I have planned to watch it. I do have tickets for the 8 p.m. showing, so I'm skipping my regular Impact showing just to watch this. Sorry, Cody. I'll see you there next time.
Sometimes you got to make those sacrifices when it comes to something.
Why not?
Again, yeah, I know I won't be going to the actual 10th just due to time and stuff like that, but I will be going on Friday for sure. Come hell or high water, I will have tickets and I will be at that movie, and I will stay spoiler free until that comes up. And again, the runtime of this movie is the longest of the entire franchise, and also some of the people who have seen it have said that it does not feel like that in any way, that this one moves along so nicely paced that you won't even know you've been in the theater for over 2 hours watching this thing.
Oof.
Yeah,
Can't wait.
they also have the big thumbs up from the original creator, Kevin Williamson himself, saying that this one is different and that he is absolutely in love with it. So those early reviews are great to see. Let's just break down a little bit of our thoughts from the original series and stuff like that, 1 through 5 so far. I want to talk about, let's break down the killers. We'll mention the killers from each of the series, and maybe we'll talk about kind of like who had the most impact as the killers so far in the series to this date. Starting with Scream 1, we had Billy Loomis do Mocker on that one. 2, we had Mickey Altieri. I'm not sure if anyone's going to remember Mickey quite as much. I think he was good, but we'll talk about him in a moment. And of course, Nancy Loomis, aka Debbie Salt. 3, we had Roman Bridger, I believe is the last name pronunciation, and that was Sydney's half brother. Part 4, we had Charlie Walker and Jill Roberts. Jill Roberts being the cousin of Sydney Prescott. And part 5 would be Richie Kirsch. Although, is Richie as much a killer as what we want to believe? I mean, technically breaking it down, Richie really didn't kill anybody. He just kind of was the instigator, I guess, so to speak, more than anything. But yes, working alongside Amber Freeman, who really, in so many ways, worked solo throughout that entire movie to take down some pretty hefty hits anyway.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's our killers. I want to know from your perspective, which has been your favorite killer in the series so far, and favorite and then most impactful. Let's go that direction.
Ugh, that's a tough one, but I definitely have to go with the originals. I feel like Billy and Sue did such a great job of like the planning in it itself, and how well they had it planned out and the meaning behind it. I feel like it had the best like motive behind it, if you want to call it like that, as terrible as that sounds. But it is that old like family revenge, and the fact that it, from where our perspective, we don't know much about Maureen at the moment, and Sydney doesn't get to know Maureen until she realizes, not only based on what happened after her passing, but based on what Billy had told her as well. So to me, they're my favorite ones, just because you can see it's when Sydney really learns who her mother really is, after what happened with them. And it's just incredible to think like she had this certain vision of her mom, by the time she passed away, and by the end of the movie is just completely different based on what happened with Billy and Stu. But most impactful, I will say, to me, it's Roman, because I think Roman, if you don't think about it, it goes to that part of going back to the beginning. He said, "I'm the director. I directed Billy and Stu to the beginning." So if you think about it, Billy and Stu had the idea, but really the one that really helped them out to begin with was Roman. So if you don't think about it, Roman had been there, I think it would have been a little bit different in that aspect of it. And like I said, it's just nice to see that going back full circle with Roman giving us a backstory to Maureen even before what happened. So I feel like really Sydney really learns entirely who her mom really is by the end of the third one. So to see those little details here and there, and how her mother like had multiple affairs, and learning about her mom's past in Hollywood, which she didn't know about. So it's nice to see all that backstory going back to it coming full circle with the first one there for me. So I would say those are my two.
Awesome picks. Yeah, it's hard not to pick Billy or Stu when it comes to favorites. I mean, of course, they are the ones who really started all when you watch from the beginning and everything like that. Billy having the motive, while Stu almost seems like he's not sure that he knew about the reason Billy wanted to do this. Like he was just along for the ride, having fun with it, kind of thing. Almost shocked when he comes to that revelation that Billy actually has a reason behind all of this and a connection to it all. But I will 100% agree on Roman. And again, is Roman the favorite? Not by a long shot. Most people aren't even going to remember him in us talking about this, and I hope that changes after today. Roman, the story there was interesting, and it should have been done maybe a little bit better. I think the reason that people forget about 3 or dislike 3 tends to be because of the writing. And the writing, anyone who knows the backstory behind it, was the first one that Kevin Williamson couldn't be a part of. He didn't have the time frame to do it. They wanted to rush this thing out to theaters to not create a gap between 2 and 3. So they had Aaron Kruger actually sitting in a room writing pages as the movie was being created. Hence, there's even the scene in 3 where the script is being made as the characters are reading it out in the movie, that was actually a nod to what was actually literally going on with Scream 3. So going back on it, there is a lot of narrative within 3 that is a lot more clever than I think people gave it credit for in the first place. Roman, maybe not the favorite, but definitely the most impactful on 100% because he has had the most reason behind why this has all occurred and stuff like that, which makes me really question, do they need something along those lines, something big for the 6th one? Because like Randy Meeks said in his videotape warning to everybody, when it comes to the trilogies, it always goes back to the original. Something's not right from the get-go, and that's why it makes me wonder, is that why we're seeing Hayden Panettiere come back in to Scream 6, where she was in Scream 4, acting as if 4 through 6 might become the next trilogy in the series? I guess only time will tell, but very interesting thoughts on that for sure. Yeah. So that's, yeah. So that as far as the killers go, that's the way I would go. Now I want to know who has been the most impactful death, who really got at your heartstrings in terms of the big name kills within the Scream franchise, which was the most troublesome one so far.
Oh, that's a really tough one. Holy moly. I feel like maybe for me, thinking back from the beginning, it was maybe Drew Barrymore because a lot of people pointed out she was always in the poster. So I always thought she was a star of the movie. So to see her be part of the opening scene, you don't expect her to die so quickly. And not only that, but I feel like it's one of the most gruesome ones when you see the details behind it. Of like not only like the part of like the phone call and the trivia, seeing her boyfriend getting like stabbed and not be able to do anything, trying to run away, getting stabbed, and then getting hung by the trees. And not only that, all this while her parents are listening to her being out of breath and basically dying, and they don't know where she is to help her out either. So I think that's definitely one that had hit me the most. And if it wasn't because she survived, I would have seen like the opening scene with Jenna Ortega as another one that really like hit me hard because I kept thinking this is gonna be like Drew, Jenna's gonna die here. And then when I got out of there, it's like, I can't believe it. That's the first time somebody actually survives an opening scene. So I was like, I thought she was gonna die. So I feel like if she would have died, that would have been another one that would have been shocking for me.
Yeah, and again, that was one of the nice touches with 5 is that they actually went against the grain there, which is what I loved about that. Again, she took a real beating, quite the beating from Ghostface in that opening scene. But yes, a very nice touch that Jenna Ortega did make it through there, and we got what we got out of that one as well too. For me, on a personal level, the one that would have tugged at my heartstrings a little bit was Randy Meeks, and not only did I love the character because it represented every bit of the nerd that was me in high school as it was. Like it was just a total connection with being that movie buff, goofy guy that never really was the popular one or anything like that. So when he dies in that one, it really impacted me because I thought just he had a bigger role to play in general. And to the point where I honestly sat there breaking it down when 3 was about to come out, I said, they've got to have him return for 3. And then when I saw the videotape and the trailer, I'm like, he's the killer in the 3rd one. He's the director. I predicted the director idea behind it, but I thought that his is the only death at that point in time in the series that you don't really see physically happening. You don't actually see Ghostface with the knife going in. All you see is him grabbed into a van. You see a Ghostface hand go up, the knife coming down, and then afterwards them finding a body. And I thought with clever as what Randy was when it came to film, he's working in a film school. I honestly believe that he could have been the one to trick them into thinking he had died when he really hadn't. Lo and behold, I was wrong. Definitely wrong. And I'm not going to get on these conspiracy theories either, where I think, hey, he's going to pop up in 6, or Stu Macher's been alive all this time. He's come back. No, it's off the table for me. They're interesting theories, but I'm not buying them personally.
No, but I like that theory about Randy. I never thought about that way of like he would know the behind the scenes of it being a film student. So it's like you never think about that aspect of it. It's like you're thinking like the way I didn't think he was gonna die in that scene, but I just when he died, I just like, did he really? It just like it's one of those things like when you think of a legacy character, you kind of doubt they're gonna die. So even with like Dewey happening too, it's another one that I was like, nah, they're not doing it. And then once it happened, I was like, I literally like I had to like hold my chest when I saw Dewey die. So it felt similar to me in that aspect.
Yeah, same as well too. And I mean, his would be right up there as well too, because even in the second one, when he gets stabbed for another time, poor bastard. I watched that and just thought, oh my god, this guy just has no luck. Like I feel bad for him. And
Yeah.
so when he finally did die in the new one, and I knew in 5 that we had to see some impact. I
Mhm.
honestly thought he wasn't going to be the only one. I was very shocked
Mhm.
that we still had both Sydney and Gail survive one more time. And I'm really thinking that in 6, I'm sorry, Gail, but it might be time's up here finally. As much as people don't want to see it, I really have a sneaking suspicion that in 6, Gail could be on her way out the door this time around. And then again, people are also speculating why Sydney Prescott not a part of this one. Of course, what's been said in the media anyway is that they wouldn't offer enough money to Neve Campbell for a return. That sometimes seems suspicious to me. Like, why a successful series such as this that made as much money as it did with her returning in part 5 wouldn't be able to afford the kind of money to bring her back? Or could it be a marketing ploy? Maybe she's in there somewhere in some capacity that they don't want people to know about because that would be part of the surprise. I guess we'll find out. But again, it's very suspicious and very
Mhm.
interesting to see how they'll carry on a 6th movie without the central character that this has all been based around so far.
I kept thinking though, like of like along the lines of what you were thinking though, because I in my mind I had, well, I kept thinking back of the movies, and somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but we've only had Gail had one phone call for Ghostface, and at that phone call is the one that Randy picked up.
Yep.
So seeing her in this like clip and have the phone call, I'm like, okay, maybe this is it. And having Gilda is what brings Sydney back into this to like want to end it somehow, and that's why she comes back in the next one when they do announce that Scream 7 is coming out. That's what my thought process was, because I'm thinking she lost Dewey, and you barely see her like mourn Dewey's death on the in the movie before, and then now having the impact that Gil gets the call and Gil dies, I feel like that will be something that could bring her back for 7. So that could be a way of her coming back in that aspect, like, okay, I lost two of my friends, I can't be the next one. So it's like, whoever it is, just let me just end this for once and for all, and just kind of make close that chapter with number 7.
Yeah, and I got some thoughts on how they could do that as well going into number 7, based on my theories of number 6 that we'll talk about right away here. When it comes through 1 through 5, I know I'm not going to make you rank them because I wouldn't want to start ranking them. But if you were to pick a favorite in 1 through 5, which one would you say so far has been your absolute favorite?
Oof. I think definitely the first one. I feel like no matter what, I end up watching it, and I love seeing the beginnings to it, because later on, obviously, you think about through to 5, and now when 6 coming up, you see how one always influences the rest of them somehow,
Yeah.
and it's always like that's the original, but you always see like the others copy a little bit of what happened in one somehow, and it's just one of those things that I keep thinking back of like Billy and Sue are the ones that really laid out the plans for this. And if they hadn't done it, the other ones probably wouldn't have done it, because if like Billy would have been alive, then his mom wouldn't have gotten revenge or anything like that. And it goes back to those points like that. So I feel like number one will always be like mine. I keep thinking like number two is one of those that I love it, but I keep thinking like kind of like number three, it was all the like writing changes they had to me because the ending got spoiled. You can kind of see a little bit of how what the old script into it. And same thing with like the third one, they're trying not to spoil anything because they don't want anything spoiled online. So they're trying to like have it closed off. So you can see little details that here and there that got changed. Um Four, it wasn't entirely my favorite. It was like in the middle for me. And then five is like I feel like I had to watch it a couple of times to like kind of like fall in love with it like it. But with one, it's always like that's my number one. I can't change it.
Yeah. I mean, that's a very fair assessment. I mean, I love number 2 in very many ways, and I definitely see your points with it and stuff like that. I like that it finally kind of had a voice of its own a little bit too, where number 1, and I'm not criticizing number 1 by any means. So number 1 was like Kevin Williamson writing an homage to Halloween. And a lot of the dialogue within it and a lot of the character names are based on characters or people involved with Halloween, including things like the scene at the beginning where you mentioned about Casey Banker's parents hearing her on the phone, and then the husband telling his wife, "I need you to go down the street to the Mackenzies and call the police," is an exact direct line right of a Halloween. So I felt like at that point it was an homage, and it's a phenomenal movie. Let's not make any mistakes. But 2, I thought found its own little bit of a voice, started going the way it wanted to go, its own little direction and everything like that. So I really have fondness for it. But man, five, it's hard not to love that one because it really brought me back to what I loved about it. It kept it simple while still not giving me the exact same thing I've seen from the other movies, other than maybe the reasoning behind the killers, which I found very similar to part 4. And I'm really hoping they don't go the same direction of Stab fans for part 6 as well, too.
Yeah, I felt the same way when the motive, because I was thinking like, I feel like the other ones have more important motives behind it. And then when they said, oh, it's just like we wanted to remake Stab, I'm like, we kind of got that already. We kind of got people like wanting to make their own movie. It's like, I think about it from like an aspect of like a viewer's like, would I want to do a killing just to be like the next one up and have somebody do a movie about me, even though I'm gonna die in the end? And even if you think about it, I think one of the reporters says it, or even Gail, if I'm not mistaken, says something in the end of like, oh, they're not gonna reveal who did it because they just want to keep it this way. So imagine doing all that work and you're not even getting recognition for it. So just like, nah, and just like, and I think the one thing I liked about it more than anything was like we had little cameos here and there, because we had the cameos from Demi, Chelsea, and James, and we had that cameo of like the one with the golden mask is Matthew Lillard doing it actually. The little part of like the YouTube channel when they put Demi, you can see the little part of like the Kitty Haven that's here in the corner, so you kind of gotta get the idea of like she's returning somehow because she survived it, and there's like little Easter eggs here, and that's what I loved about it. Because even at the end, I kept thinking, I didn't realize this at first. It's just one of those things like I know I read it online. It's just like the killer's the one that wearing the plaid. And I look at back and I was like, oh, Richie, you had it all along. Why didn't I notice this? And it's one of those things that you have to watch it a few times to like realize it. And even Joey telling her at the beginning, it's like, it's always the love interest. And he's like, me? But I don't even know what Stab is. And it's like, it's, at this time, who doesn't know what Stab and Scream is? It's kind of rare. So that should have been my clue that it was him.
Yeah, even if you haven't watched them, I'm sure you've heard of them at least enough to know what's going on, and 100% agree. And yeah, it was right there in front of us, and I still had my doubts. I don't know why, but I still had my doubts with that one. But very, very, very great series so far. Nothing that I'm going to complain about. But speaking of, you mentioned cameos, and I wanted to, this kind of what clued me in parts 1 through 3, Wes Craven actually makes a cameo within all 3 of those movies. And I just wanted to know if you've caught those or read about the Easter eggs to where you could find each of the moments in those first 3 movies where Wes Craven makes an appearance.
He actually makes one in 4, but they cut it off too. I don't know if you've seen the footage of that
no,
one
I didn't
too.
know about that. No. Oh, okay.
For him, it was a scene that they cut off. It's when they're doing the crime scene for the opening for Marnie, and I forgot what the other girl's name is. When they're actually like in Woodsboro and it's on the Stab movies anymore, he's one of the corners just doing the CSI kind of part of like the group there.
Nice.
So he's just there with a corner jacket in the back, but they kind of cut him off from that one. I know in one he does the Freddy Krueger janitor outfit, and I know in the second one he's a doctor, but he's there for like a split second. Like if you blink, you miss him. I think. Oh, the third one he's a tourist in the background there when they do the tour of the backlot tour for the studio there too. But yeah, they did the fourth one. They actually cut it off. And he wasn't in the fifth one at that point, if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, I seen the clip of like the fourth one when I'm watching it. Sometimes on the part of the extras, I get to watch it on iTunes sometimes when I'm doing it.
Yeah, no, I knew about the first 3. I didn't know about 4, so I'm gonna have to go check that out now. That's great. One other thing I want to bring up about the first one that I always found this hilarious, and I noticed this like after watching it about the 100th time when I was younger, is there's
only 100. Don't lie, Bobby.
that was just when I was younger. I've seen it more than that since then. But there's the scene where Dewey goes to speak to the deputy, the sheriff at the time or whatever. Dewey's got the ice cream cone and the sheriff is having a cigarette. And if you notice, every single time that the chief goes to, or the sheriff goes to take a puff of his smoke, Dewey takes a lick of his ice cream. And even there's a part where he puffs one and then he pulls it right back right away, and you'll see it goes right back to Dewey, and he takes 2 bites of the ice cream right at the same exact time. I thought it was so comical. It you can't unsee it once you go back to watch it.
Well, and now that you pointed out too, if I'm not mistaken, which is another point to it, let me see if I'm correct or not before I say it. I believe, I don't know if it was the sheriff or not, but I know one of the cops is actually David Arquette's dad. I don't know if it's in that movie. I'm trying to look back into it. So I think like if it is his dad, it will be so funny that he's the one that actually did that. If I'm not mistaken,
there was something about that, if I'm not mistaken. I think you
Yeah,
are
I'm trying to
100%
remember back.
correct on that.
True. Yeah, I remember like they said it was his dad in the movie, and I was like, "There's no freaking way!" And I didn't realize that until like years later. And I was like, that could explain like the little chemistry with like as in like boss and an employee, but it's actually his dad.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't remember. I'm gonna have to look it up. If I remember, I confirm in a little bit, but
That's
I think it is.
perfectly okay. Well, in the meantime, while you're looking that up anyway, I've got this lurking, nagging green Ghostface guy that hangs out around my place sometimes. He's popped up on a show or two here on OLE and various other platforms, and he sent in this message. Apparently, he's upset that I didn't invite him to Killer Cuts here. So I got a quick 30-second little message from the Greenface Killer here for you guys.
Now you listen up, Munson. I am sick and tired of being held back like you keep doing to me. I'm the one with the mask. I'm the one that should be on the show. You know it damn well. You don't ever invite Greenface. I don't know what your problem is with me, but I should have been the first and only guest on this edition of the show. I'm the one who knows all the deeds. Always trying to hold me back. I'll get you for this, Munson. I'll get you for this.
Sounds like I'm in a lot of trouble there. Yeah, I'm sure. Why doesn't he go just roll up another joint and see how he feels about coming after me? Then that's why I keep holding that guy back. Maybe he'll get his own show one day if somebody ever gives him an opportunity. Poor bugger.
Okay, I found the information. So the one is the chief from Scream 2 is actually David Arquette's dad. That's the one. I knew there's a copy in there.
Yeah. And I knew there was something about the chief in part 2 and also in part 1, but I think part 1 might have just been about it being that he was doing that scene or whatever with the cigarette and the ice cream there too. But just so many cool little things that you can find within these movies and stuff. That's what makes them so rewatchable and so much fun. Let's before we go over to the 6, and I got another video we're going to play here momentarily. Before we go over there, I want to know what has been one of the most interesting or creative death scenes in parts 1 through 5, the one that kind of had the coolest effect or looked the best so far in terms of what you think anyways.
I almost forgot about this one, but I'm glad you asked, and that sparked it in my mind. I think one that definitely stands out to me is now in 5, Wes, the way they do it through the throat, and you can see the knife going from one end to the other one. And one thing that makes me laugh about it, it just of the like little like close calls to it, because you're like that moment like he has the door open and he closes and you're like, okay, now, and it's not there, and it's like, shoot, what is it gonna happen? And it makes me laugh because my mom's one of those people that gets scared so easily, so she was like, every single time, and I was like, stop scaring me. She's scaring me more than the movie. But I like seeing all these like close calls, as like maybe 4 or 5 in a row, and you're like, nah, it's gonna happen, and that's when it comes out and it happens. And it also makes me laugh at that point of like he's Hicks' son. So I like it's funny to me because he has like a pepper spray and this and that. And I was like, he has a freaking mask on. How is that gonna help you? Like, you should have something to hit him with at least, or stab him with. But like, how is the pepper spray gonna help you? The taser maybe, but it depends on what he's wearing. So it makes me laugh when he's like going like this and like, here, I have the taser, and trying to like, I was like, how is that gonna help you, dude? Though it's just like, come on, Judy, you should have taught him better than that. But I like that whole sequence, that whole scene from the beginning to end, because going back to Hicks getting the call and then him in the shower, going back to the cycle scene, and all the close calls that we get in between there, and then the way it happens, and like you see the knife going through it and the knife going through the other end too, and the way he just like stares at the person as he does it. It just like, and the way he just falls down and everything is like, the only thing I was disappointed is like I wanted more from him in the movie because I like the actor. And then seeing him in all the like promotions and doing all these interviews, I thought he was in the movie longer than what he was.
Yeah.
And then when he comes out, and I feel like he was only there for like maybe approximately like 10 minutes out of the whole movie, I was kind of disappointed by that end of it. But I like the detailing behind like the killing itself, and just the special effects I did for that, because that looked incredible to begin with.
Yeah, and like minds we are, because that was the one that came to mind for me too. As cool as what some of them have been and so well done at times, this one had some real beef to it. And like you said, it was the build up to it, and like 5 had the least amount of kills overall, and yet had some of the most impactful and most interesting ones of the entire series. And the fact that it comes red hot off of the death of Judy Hicks, Sheriff Judy Hicks, in broad daylight, mind you. The fact that right in her front yard in broad daylight, Ghostface had the nerve to take her out and then to go back to stalking her son after the fact. And then when finally gets in, like you said, the knife through, and everyone in the theater is turning away and hiding their eyes. I'm that guy that's sitting there clapping and having a chuckle. Everyone's looking at me like I'm a psychopath. It's like, I'm not a psychopath. It's a movie, you guys.
There's a reason why I'm here.
Like, I know that kid's going to be on Entertainment Weekly covers tomorrow morning, so it doesn't matter. Like, it's fun. Just enjoy yourself. I mean, I get it. It is tough to watch, and I do understand that about some people, weak stomachs and everything like that. But I mean, I've become so desensitized to it over the years that I can enjoy the movie magic behind it. But before we go to talk about 6, got a little video here, which is just going to detail for the next few minutes here every single one of the victims that Ghostface has knocked off in series 1 through 5 so far. Who will be in 6? We'll talk about that very soon. Here's the video.
Why am I so insecure? So designed but just ignored. Now I'm facing friendly fire, feeling sick and tired. Think it's time to let you know that this is the end of us, baby. This is more. It's like a hole in my heart. I stitch it up so you can tear it apart. Can't seem to fight through the pain. Got another piece inside. Bit of my soul, it's like a hole in my heart. You're the hole in my heart.
Yeah, we're making love, it's like a line of cocaine. Feels like heaven for a second, then I turn to a slave. She's kinda good at getting under my skin. Shoot me up, knock me down, cause she's my heroine. Until I'm lying on the floor, just trying to find myself a remedy. I've been drinking, overthinking, tripping out on what we used to be. I think that I figured you out. All that you wanted was clout, but all that you're getting is two little fingers, cause I'm leaving without a doubt. Sing it.
This is the end of us, baby. This is more. It's like a hole in my heart. I stitch it up so you can tear it apart. Can't seem to fight through the pain. Got another piece inside. Split on my soul. It's like a hole in my heart. You're the hole in my heart. When you're holding my heart. You're the hole in my heart. Think it's time to let you know that this is the end of us, baby. This is the end of us, baby. This is more. It's like a hole in my heart. I stitch it up so you can tear it apart. Can't seem to fight through the pain. Got another piece inside. Beat of my soul. It's like a hole in my heart. You're the hole in my heart. When you're holding my heart. You're the hole in my heart.
Well, that was a lot of fun. Again, reliving some of that. Again, it also reminds me just how awesome Parker Posey was in part 3. Probably one of the biggest highlights of that one as well, too. And unfortunately, she was one of the poor victims of Ghostface, just like that long list that you just saw there. But yeah, it's been an incredible ride so far. But let's start to get into Scream 6 because we're excited. We're a week away. Counting down the days, scratching them off the calendar. I'm first going to go over the list of characters. Then we're going to talk a little bit about maybe our theories on it, who we think might be behind. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Nice. Fancy. Love it. Absolutely love it. I don't know if I've got any Scream stuff in reach at the moment. I'm just, I do. You know what? Listen, I have had this for quite some time now, actually, if it doesn't get lost by the green screen. But of course, I got that right there. So I got him added to the collection. Unfortunately, but when I bought him, I was kind of still being a little bit silly and taking stuff out of boxes. I don't do that, anymore.
You know?
Oh, of course. Well, now, see, it's funny when back, especially in my portion of Canada, there's a whole lot of stores that sold a lot of good stuff. Like I would have to go to some of the comic book stores to hopefully find some of these pieces of memorabilia I do have. But I couldn't find a shirt to save my life at the time. So at the time, and of course I don't have it anymore because faded with time and everything like that. But when Scream 2 came out, I actually took the poster down to a shirt printing place and got the Scream 2 poster printed onto a t-shirt at the time. So I could be the only one that had one, at least in this area anyway. So yeah, it was tough back then. Just couldn't find cool stuff anymore. But
yeah, I feel like it's been easier now with like I have Hot Topic have so many shirts that I didn't know which one to pick. And it's been helping me that at least like now with the movie coming out, they have more stuff coming out because now I found stuff in Etsy all the time. I found a bookmark now. I have a hoodie and have a regular t-shirt, a sweatshirt. Like, what else is there?
Yeah, just keep it going. Now that I'm adult and I can spend that money, I can take on anything. Yeah, what do they got for me? Like, sure, there'll be a lot more to add to my collection coming up here soon. But Scream 6 coming out to theaters on March the 10th. We're very excited. Gonna go through the list of characters, at least the ones I was able to find anyway, and then we'll start to discuss who we feel might be behind this whole thing and where it might be going from there. So, of course, we got returning to this one, Sam Carpenter, who we know is the daughter of Billy Loomis and the half-sisters of Tara Carpenter, who is also returning. We got Gail Weathers returning and becoming the only person that's graced all 6 films, at least as far as we know. We got Minnie Meeks Martin and Chad Meeks Martin. These would be the twins from Part 5 that are also the niece and nephew to Randy Meeks and his the daughter and son of his sister anyway. Kirby Reed is returning to the fold on this one. We have Anika, Danny Brackett, I believe, Ethan, Quinn Bailey, Jason Carvey, Laura Crane, Detective Bailey, Dr. Christopher Stone, Brooks, and Frankie are the listed names of characters going into this one. And I got a lot of thoughts on this, on who I think is behind this. A lot of things have been stirring in my mind, but I know you had the trailer reaction here at OLE that has done some fantastic views, by the way, and was a great trailer as well, too. Great breakdown. Hope to see you do more of those. So a lot that you unfolded in that trailer. Since then, with some of the new trailers coming out, some of the new things that have come out and the things that you've heard, have your opinions changed on where you think this might be going? Do you have some thoughts? What are your thoughts going into 6? Who could be behind this?
Well, I can think back of like for me, it's not anybody of like if you want to call them the legacy characters. So it's not the Carpenter sisters, it's not Gail, it's not the Meeks Martin twins, it's not Kirby. So I'm more towards like the bottom half of my IMDb. I'm thinking like by process of elimination, to me, it's not going to be Danny, who is supposed to be Sam's boyfriend. I feel like they cannot do a lot of interest again after the one they did before, so that he's already off my list. I know with Detective Bailey and Quinn Bailey, I feel like the relationship there makes me feel like they probably could be not it. So I don't know. That one's like I'm like half and half on that one. I feel like Samara Weaving, it's definitely not the killer. I feel like she's more the like to like give that connection to like Ready or Not with the team behind it, because the same team as Scream. So I'm like left off with like Anika and Ethan. Jason, it's another one that's more to me about like the cameo because he's from Spider-Man. But I don't see him being the killer either. So I'm just between Anika and Ethan and the doctor as well. I think, if I'm not mistaken, he's what's it called? Oh my god, psychiatrist, something along those lines.
Yeah.
So that makes me think of like he could be getting behind the minus Sam, like because if you see, brother, that's a little. I think it's like what they call TV spot of like a scene of her talking to a psychiatrist, having her session with a doctor. So it makes me feel like when she doesn't think about it, she's telling this doctor this information, and then he's using it towards his advantage, and she doesn't realize it at first because she's thinking, it's my psychiatrist. I'm just, letting everything out and venting, having that normal session. So I feel like it kind of helps him kind of like blend in a way with everybody else, so she doesn't think about him. So he's one that I have in mind. Anika, I'm like debating on her, so I'm not entirely sure. And then Frankie and Brooks, it just makes you feel like they look like cops, so I don't think those two. So that gives me like it gives me to like Dr. Christopher Stone and Ethan will be my one, and Anika will be like my other one that I'm like, maybe.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm thinking, I think they need to do something different with it. So I feel like we never had anybody be, like I said, like blend in a way, sort of like the way Davy Salt was doing. We haven't had that in a little bit. So I feel like that's what made me think of like the Doctor more than anything. And Anika's like the one I'm like torn about.
Yeah. Now, you talk about the blending in, and I got to ask, could Detective Bailey be somebody that's connected to the original? Now, have we ever discovered who Jill's father is? Was that ever mentioned? Could Jill's father potentially be under the name of Detective Bailey now in this one? Detective Bailey, the reason I ask this too is because when we look at the shrine that they've shown in the trailers, now, in order for somebody to obtain all of that stuff, which would have been police evidence, you almost feel like this has to be somebody connected to the police or within the police, which really only leaves us Detective Bailey or Kirby Reed. And somehow I agree 100% that legacy to a degree might not play a factor, but in that case, I don't think it's Kirby Reed. I really am putting her as being more that the powerhouse, the one that's going to really be there at the end to really try to close the loop on this thing and everything like that. I think they're going to give her moment to really shine, because I think the fans have wanted Hayden Panettiere to return to the series in a big way. And I think that she will shine in this movie as more of the hero side.
Yeah, I think the only thing I think about when it comes to like Jill's father is like, I know that Sydney was estranged to them in a way because of her mom, but at the same time, what if she kind of had known? But at the same time, she has that moment where, like, for example, with Debbie Salt, aka Mrs. Loomis, she didn't recognize her at first.
Yeah.
But I think like maybe she wouldn't know what Jill's father is. Perhaps, I don't know. But I feel like it's one of those things like, if you also think about it, it could be anybody getting revenge of somebody she killed before. Like it could be, somebody from Amber's parents. We've never seen Amber's parents. We've heard of them buying the house, but we've never seen them. And same thing with Richie. It's like we never saw Richie's family. So you never know if it goes back to something similar in that aspect to Debbie Salt of like, didn't know who the parents are. We've never seen them before for half of these people. So it could be any one of them. And it's just one of those things that kind of like Debbie, that they're there and they're in plain sight. You don't even realize it because she's like in certain scenes, and she arrives at the scenes in a particular timing when you think about it later. But it, like, if you see it from this aspect, Mrs. Loomis and Sydney really don't interact with each other until the last scene. So I feel like if Sydney would have seen Mrs. Loomis, she would have, recognized her and said something about it. So I'm like, that's what it makes me think of like something similar could have happened with Bailey.
I'm wondering. And the reason I asked too is because this ties into my theory on this one. I believe that they're going to do what 2 wanted to do originally, which was have multiple killers, not just 2 killers, but multiple killers. Originally, the plans for 2 was like 3 or 4 people behind the killings in that one. And I think that that's the direction they want to go. This Ghostface clearly says, I'm something different to Gale Weathers. And what could be different outside of having all of a sudden, oh my God, that we've got a Freddy Krueger on our hands that could keep coming back, and it's somebody who's already died before. I don't think that'll ever be the direction of the Scream movie. So how do you be different in a world full of people who put on a mask and start killing people? Well, I have a feeling that that's possibly the direction. Is something along the lines of, say, Jill's father could be a character. And I'm pointing towards Detective Bailey. I do believe Dr. Christopher Stone is part of this as well, too, for the same reason you brought up, is being able to talk directly to Sam Carpenter, get the information that they're possibly looking for out of Sam. And what I think this is going to be is what I'm calling the cult of Ghostface. I don't believe that this will end with New York. I don't believe that this will end with part 6. I believe that these people will not be obsessed with the stab movies. In fact, they will care not one bit about the stab movies. I think these people are all going to be tied to somebody who they've lost in the originals. And that's why I believe that the twins are on the table for me as the other possible two in this group of four in this potential movie. Tying back to the idea that these people have lost people due to the central characters involved here, and that they want to close all the loops that made them lose their loved ones. And that's why they are going to take control of it. They're going to be the Ghostface, and they're going to make sure that they do everything they can to draw Sydney out and finally end the whole thing altogether. And that's the idea behind their killings here. Finish off Gail, get rid of that loop, finish off the Carpenter sisters, get rid of that loop, and then go after Sydney in what I think will be part 7. I think that the idea here will be that, all 4 killers don't get out of this thing alive, but I could imagine one of them making their last point to, I'm assuming Kirby Reed or somebody like that, their last point being, you might have closed this one, but it's just going to keep going. This is, if you think we're the only 4 here, you're kidding yourself. This is a cult, and there is more involved. And I think that's where you could see it unfold into a 7th one, and maybe that they draw Sydney out of hiding, or even if they don't draw her out of hiding, how long before someone cracks and recognizes her and says, we found her, and the cult can go after her in her 7th one. My thoughts on it, I'll tell you, I've been wrong every time with my prediction. I've never even been close, so I'm sure I will be
feel
wrong.
like I feel like there's something that goes back to, like, I know that obviously with the 5th it was the subreddits, and it goes back to the Stab 8. But I feel like if you think about it from this aspect, they were talking about subreddit. That's how they met each other. So you never know who else belongs to the subreddit, because they never mention anybody else by themselves. So you never know if, like, somebody, instead of being influenced to do Stab 8, they decide to influence outside of that and take out the Stab part of it. But I think along the lines of that part, because one of my theories was some kind of cult or like a fan to it, because one of the scenes and pictures I will not get out of my mind is that shrine. Seeing like the still of like showing everything from like the robe that Stu wore in the first movie to in the fax machine, where my brother goes, how did the fax machine get in there when the house broke down and it's exploded? But I was like, well, I don't know how that happened. But it makes me think of like that aspect you said with the copper, like all the evidence is there. And they have, I think it's one of the costumes from like Scream 2, like the bag from the Scream 2 when it happened in the movie theater. But one thing that really stood out to me was when you see all the like cases with all the ghost faces from before, I kept counting them from left to right. And I kept going, oh, I see 2 together. So this is Billy and Stu. And it goes like Mrs. Lewis and Mickey. And then there was one in the middle, which I thought was Roman, because it's the only one that's been the only one in the movies. And then the rest of them. And then when there's a lot of the scenes that I think it was Gail and even Sam gets a little bit closer, you see that Billy is the center of the attention in this whole thing. So that really like stood out to me, because I kept thinking it was in order, the movies, but it's really not. And they were like kind of scattered around, but I like how they all like standing like nicely placed. But when you think about it, the Billy one is the only one that has a glass on it, as if they're protecting it compared to the other ones. So I thought it was super interesting in that aspect. That was like, okay, whoever's looking at this is looking at it back from the like really, really original movie and like the original story. And like thinking of like another thing that made me think about it, which is connected to my second theory, just they kind of make Billy look like the one that's taking all the credit. And even though we know he's the one behind everything and Stu just riding his coattails, but at the same time, he was part of the killing. So it's like, how come Stu doesn't get that credit that Billy does? And this is what made me think of the second point, because I kept thinking maybe in a legacy of like Stu's family, because we get that point of like Billy's family, you know, Mrs. Loomis and then Sam. We had that family tree there. But we really don't see anything from Stu's family. Like, it's just like Stu died and that was it. Like, nobody from his family comes to avenge him in any way whatsoever. And like, nobody comes out to say, like, I'm proud that I'm from the Stumacher family. The only one that really came out was Vincent, that he was killed in the 5th one, I believe. So he's the only one that's like Stu's family. And he was only in the movie for like 5 minutes. So it's like, we really didn't have anything from that family tree. So it made me think of that, because of that rumor of like, oh, Stu's gonna be in the movie. And like I said, the Loomis family has been represented in the past, but Stu really hasn't. So it made me think maybe that's why the Billy one is in the middle of like, he's the one always taking the credit and Stu hasn't been. So that's what made me think of like those 2 points of it. But that shrine is the one that I haven't been able to take that scene and that, you know, whole picture out of my mind. I seen other channels doing it, just like breaking down what's in every single one of the cases. And it's like from like a doll that looks kind of like Tatum to represent her and her death. And just like little bits and pieces here and there. I know there's one of them, if I'm not mistaken, one of the outfits that Sydney wore too, and just in the mask from the play that she did in college as well from Scream 2. So there's like so many details that I'm like, holy moly, like I keep thinking this has to be some kind of fan, or somebody that's thinking back of like that original legacy, and that's why Billy's in the middle and he's in the glass case getting protected versus anybody else isn't. So it looks like he's like the important one. He's the one that did the snowball effect and the domino effect to all these killings and everything. So if you haven't seen that picture, haven't seen that scene, definitely check it out. You're gonna, if you see the slow motion the way I did, because after the trailer reaction I did decided to watch it in slow motion and to see it from beginning to end, all the names and the little nameplates they have at the bottom. So I was like, holy moly. And like all the like crime scene details, I like you said, it just when you think about them, it had to be a cop or somebody with a connection, like with a cop somewhere, to get everything here. And it made me think, like, at first I thought, oh, it's just kind of shrine. By the way they talk about it, it also makes me think of like maybe it's a Scream museum, like there's a fan kind of building that museum for themselves. So I don't know, those are the little things that I could point out from the trailer.
Yeah. Every little bit that we mentioned just makes me that much more excited to find out just how right or wrong we are. It doesn't matter, because it's going to be a great, fantastic time. I can't wait to do it. And I believe what we should do is do a follow-up. At least, like, I know that I do some reviews here on the channel, and I'll probably do a quick non-spoiler thing right out of the movie or something like that. But I think that the two of us should have another episode of Killer Cuts, a follow-up chapter 2, where we'll talk just about our thoughts, and it will be spoiler heavy when we talk about our thoughts when we come back to Killer Cuts at the next episode here, next chapter, I should say. But I think unless there's any more things that we missed or wanted to add here, I think that probably pretty much wraps it up for our very first chapter here on Killer Cuts. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, I did want to point out when you talked about before about the killings, though, and the detailing behind it, like how the special effects. Another one that I forgot to say was Olivia, because I never seen somebody intestines show up in the way they blurred it and everything in some of the movies too. And I feel like aside from West, because this was before, that felt like one of the most gruesome killings I've seen in the like one of the Scream movies, and seeing Sydney's reaction to it, that made it much better as well. So that's another one that I wanted to point out too.
Yeah, no, they're fantastic ones. There's so many. We could go off forever for sure. But this has been an awesome time. The time just flew right by. We hope it did for everybody out there as well too. Before we go though, Astrid, where can people find you coming up? What do you got going on over the next little while?
I mostly have everything on my Twitter, which is like my name, Astrid Pizarro there. I have everything there, but usually you can hear me talking about wrestling. Tuesdays I do Taking Over, talking about NXT with my tag team partner Ed, and Thursdays I do Making an Impact with my other tag team partner Cody, talking about Impact Wrestling. But if you go on my YouTube channel, I do have my interviews, Astrid Ass, and my podcast with my good friend Mel, talking about women's wrestling. It's called Ladies Wrestling Showcase. And I do my NXT review on the weekends with Women's Wrestling Talk. But just watch out for my socials, because I'm always doing something different every time I try it. So you never know what I'll be up to at the moment.
That's right. Very busy, but definitely check out all of your work and give likes, follows, supports, all sorts of things. And as for myself, of course, you can find me here on many different programs as well with some of my various tag partners. I've got Thursday nights with Pop Smokes, where we've been doing Ring Respect to Radio. Sundays with Chris Parrish, where we're doing Bustin' Out. And of course, coming up very soon, because of the popularity of some of our episodes of Beats and Beatdowns, Carl Carafel and I had decided we're going to do a no show dedicated to just music. No wrestling, just music. So that's going to be a lot of fun coming up very soon. But in the meantime, and in between time, as a famous commentator once said, if you want to reach out to OLE, check out all our socials. They are down below on that ticker. If you're following along on YouTube, make sure to give us a like and a subscribe. It helps us out a lot. It takes you just a matter of seconds. Click the notification bell. You'll know when we release new material on the channel, which at this point is pretty much almost daily. So, I mean, that's pretty exciting. But after you do that, you want to check out our sponsors over at Rogue Energy. Rogue Energy are the alternative to the everyday average energy drink you'll find at the stores. We're talking about a zero sugar, low calorie, vegan friendly alternative. Use OLE pods for 10% off of your order. From myself and Astrid, it has been wonderful to see you. Till next time on Killer Cuts, take care. See you soon.